SpaceInfo podcast. Today we talk about Eclipse. In particular, we talk about the solar eclipse going to occur on April the 8th of 2024. So take a seat and be ready to listen and learn something new about eclipses that maybe you didn't know. But before starting, I have to really thank all the people that listened so far the previous episodes and shared it with their friends, family and loved ones. So if you're living in the northern hemisphere of Earth, particularly in North America, Mexico, United States or Canada, save the date, April the 8th of 2024. Indeed, this day, a total solar eclipse will happen. It will be, as said, a solar eclipse. Indeed, the moon will be between Earth and the sun. So, during the day, the sky will become dark. Indeed, the moon will be obfuscating the sun and no daylight will be projected onto a particular zone of the Earth. Indeed, there will be a shadow cone due to the fact that the moon is indeed placed between the sun and Earth. And so some parts of the Earth, particularly in North America, Canada, Mexico and the United States, will no more see the sunlight for some minutes. Before going on explaining what is an eclipse, and particularly what is a sun eclipse or a lunar eclipse, be careful when trying to observe the eclipse itself. Indeed, you need some kind of eye protection to be sure that your eyes will not be damaged. Be careful, it's quite dangerous. As you maybe are thinking, the first thing to protect on your body are your eyes. Even though you have the darkest sunglasses at your home, they are not enough. You need to use some eclipse glasses. They are not regular sunglasses because doesn't matter how dark they can be, they are not safe enough to view directly the sun. Particularly, you don't have to look directly at the sun before, during and after the eclipse is happening. Also, when the sun is only partially obscured by the moon, it is equally dangerous to look at it. But don't be afraid if you don't have some kind of eclipse glasses at your home. There are some other methods you can use. Indeed, you can opt for indirect viewing methods. One of them is the pinhole projector. Basically, can be a box with a small hole on one side. Sunlight coming into that hole, into that box, is basically projected into a different surface, so you can just observe indirectly the eclipse while it's happening. Also, if you're some kind of photo geek or astronomer, you don't need for sure some of these advices, but maybe you're a newbie and you'd like to observe this eclipse and also take some photos or videos. Be careful not to use those eclipse glasses or viewers or indirect viewers with cameras, binoculars or telescope, because these require different types of solar filters. Indeed, you may not damage your eyes, which is the best case for sure, but maybe you are damaging your equipment. What you would be doing basically is using solar filters also for your telescope, your camera or your phone. So let's make a brief recap about how to protect your eyes. Basically, you should be viewing the sun through eclipse glasses or handheld solar viewer during the partial eclipse phases before and after the totality. Also, you can view the eclipse directly without proper eye protection only when the moon completely obscures the sun-bright face, so during the brief and spectacular period known as totality. Basically, you are not seeing the sun, the body of the sun, the main circular zone of the sun, only the corona and the outer part. This is only the moment when you can look directly at this eclipse without protection. But be careful that during the brief and spectacular period known of totality, that's only the time when it is safe and you can no longer see any part of the sun. But as soon as you see even a little bit of the bright sun appearing after the totality, so when the sunlight emitted directly, let's say of the body of the sun, which is coming through the atmosphere, and so you are able to look at the body of the sun, that's the point when you have to be protected again. Indeed, you immediately have to put your eclipse glasses or use your handheld hardware or indirect viewer of the eclipse. That's very important, be careful. So one underestimated factor is skin safety. Even during a partial or annual eclipse or during the partial phases of the eclipse, the sun will be very bright. So if you're watching an entire eclipse, maybe you are exposing your skin for hours to the sunlight. So be careful and also make sure that you are protected enough. Now that we have talked about safety issues that you may encounter while looking at an eclipse, what is actually an eclipse? Basically, you can differentiate between solar and lunar eclipse, but an eclipse itself happens when a celestial body is between one and another celestial body. Basically, you can have the moon between Earth and the sun and you have a solar eclipse, or you can have the Earth between the Sun and the Moon, and you'll have a lunar eclipse. This time, on the 8th of April 2024, we'll have a solar eclipse. So the Moon will be between the Earth, when we are and we can observe, and the Sun. Generally speaking, you can have total eclipse, annular eclipse, or partial eclipse. Total eclipses are the most infrequent to observe. Indeed, the Moon must be very precisely on the path between your eye, where you are on Earth, and the Sun. So basically the circle of the Moon body will completely obfuscate the circle of the Sun. You can easily understand how difficult this can be in terms of probability and things that have to be in the right place and the right time. If you're not so stringent under these requirements, let's say, you can have annular eclipses or partial eclipses. So let's talk about annular eclipses. Basically, it happens, for example, if it is a solar eclipse, but the same happens for the Moon. In this case, let's think as before in 2 dimensions. Basically, you have the circle of the body of the Moon, which is perfectly centered with the circle of the Sun. However, the distance of the Moon between the Sun and the Earth is not that perfect, so that the circle of the Moon completely obfuscates the circle of the Sun, but the circle of the Moon will be, its projection will be a little bit smaller, so you'll have an annular section of the Sun still visible. In the last case, you can have, generally speaking, a partial eclipse, which happens when the circle of the Moon is between the Sun and the Earth, but it is not centered with the first, so you only a small part of the Sun in this case is obfuscated. In the same way, with the same reciprocal position but inverting the Moon with the Earth, happen when you are talking about lunar eclipses. In this case, you'll have the Sun in first position. Between you have the Earth, between the Sun and the Moon, and then the Moon, which will be obfuscated by the body of the Earth. Also, we're talking about regions of Earth where this eclipse would be visible. In particular, in this case, with solar eclipses, the Moon is not big enough to obfuscate the total body of the Sun with respect to the observers on the Earth. Indeed, some small regions of the planet will be able to assist to this phenomenon. You should try to visualize in your head the reciprocal position of Sun, Moon and Earth in this case, because you have the Moon, which is between the Earth and the Sun, but the light and particularly the dimensions of the Sun are so big that the whole light is projected towards the Moon. However, a cone is projected towards Earth, so the zone of the shadow will be smaller with respect to the total surface exposed to the sunlight of the planet. Particularly, only some particular regions of our planet will be observing this total eclipse. Other regions will be in a semi-shadow zone, and other regions basically won't notice any difference with respect to a completely normal sunlight day. But the question is, how rare is an eclipse? As you have understood, now having an eclipse is quite a complicated event because you have to coordinate 2 different celestial bodies with respect to the Sun, which are the Earth and the Moon. Basically, the most rare event is clearly a total solar eclipse, which is estimated to occur around 18 months on average, but on different locations. If you wanted to witness to a total solar eclipse on the same location, maybe one life won't last. For sure, you have to wait at least between 360 years up to 410. So that's quite a lot of time. An interesting fact about the solar eclipse is that the Moon's umbra, which is the darkest zone of the shadow of the Moon projected on Earth, moves eastward at more than 1,700 kilometers per hour. And basically, you can stay inside this zone if you stand still on the surface of Earth for little more than 7 minutes. But if you think of moving over the Earth, trying to chase the Moon's umbra, maybe you can stay in that dark zone for more. And that's what the crew of the Concorde did while flying at supersonic speed and chasing the darkest zone of the shadow, and they managed to stay in that zone for 74 minutes. However, one of the most unknown facts is that the Moon is moving away from Earth. Basically, if you think about some years ago, and by saying some, I mean hundreds of years ago, the Moon was so close to Earth, relatively, that an annular eclipse was basically impossible, because the Moon was so close to the planet that every time it passed through the Sun, you had an eclipse, a total eclipse. Basically, no margin was available to center the disk of the Moon with respect to the disk of the Sun in the sky, leaving some space for the light to pass through and generate an annular sector. moving with the years, and also today you can indeed observe an annular eclipse because the moon is moving away something like 4 centimeters per year, and basically a full totality will be impossible to observe in the future. But that's all for today. If you're particularly curious about the lunar solar eclipse and eclipse in general, please visit our website at SpaceInfo.club, where some articles, some guides have been written just for you. Now, I have to deeply thank you for coming to this point of the podcast episode. Please leave a positive review under the Spotify episode and help us spreading the knowledge for space by sharing this episode with your friends and family and loved ones. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next episode.